Hello world, this is Jeffrey, JGB146 Blake for Team Level 5, coming to you with the promised video looking at the two baby Blacephalon deck lists that I posted yesterday. To the disappointment of many, we're going to be looking at the more common version first. But I think that gives us a grounding point to kind of start from. Okay, so the only Pokemon we play is Baby Blacephalon, right? He's our attacker. He gets us where we want to be. Now, there are some things that we've tried. We'll expand this out. There's some things that I've tried. There's some things that others with level 5 have tried. There's some things that are fairly common to see out there, such as the Blacephalon GX. Right? His GX attack will get you an extra prize, and that's the only possible reason I can see for including him. There's not synergy with Baby Blacephalon because you want to discard the energy with the baby and get it back with all your energy recovery, and with the big guy you send energy that's been attached to the lost zone. You have no way to, like, turn after turn attach lots of energy. You can get 3 attachments in with a turn using Welder, but that's not really enough to continually get knockouts with the big boy. So having to have the energy attached hurts you. So that's why we're not playing the GX. Similarly, there's a Turtonator that's been making waves from Dragon's Majesty. We're not playing him. He has the same attack as Blacephalon GX, except that he only has the key attack, the big attack. Again, you have to have the energy attached for it to do its thing. And we don't want to have to do that, so we're not playing him. I have also experimented. For a long time I was running a list that played the new Volcanion from Unbroken Bonds, looking to go second, and then I had tricks built into the deck to try to get your Volcanion active if you could get him out. So like a lot of times your first play was a greens for Nest Ball or switch to get the Volcanion out if you didn't have it out already. If you did, then or if you had one of those pieces in your hand, then you used the other thing plus a way to get some energy, or possibly you set up a Welder. But you didn't need Welder that quickly because you were attacking with Volcanion, right? So he would pull the energy out of your deck for you, let you attach it, and because you chose to go second, he'd attach 3 of them onto a Baby Blacephalon, and it doesn't even matter if you have any energy in hand at that point. So that was a powerful way to get set up, but it caused you to always be going second, so it made some of this disruption things more likely to occur before you even had a turn. That's the biggest downside. Also, you're wasting some space. So I moved away from that when I started testing this list, which came to me from Tom Fitzgerald. He's one of our team members, and I like this list. So we're playing 1 B-string that, quite simply, at some point your opponent is going to be on 3 prizes or 4 prizes, and whichever one of those points, if you have greens in hand instead of a Welder, or you don't have enough energy in hand but you have some in deck, then you use B-string, get it out of deck, attach it directly. You kind of preserve a way to move forward. This lets you have an option when you don't have a Wishful Baton active and they take a knockout, or if you foresee that happening, you can kind of prep for it. So B-string good. We play 3 of the energy. I guess I should be showing these cards, right? So for those of you who don't know, Blacephalon has his big attack, requires 3 fire energy, and then he discards fire energy cards from your hand, and then he does 50 damage for each card you discarded this way. So it sounds like you're discarding a lot of energy, and you are, but that's why we have lots of cards to get energy into our hand. The first attack you actually use more often than you'd like. And that's to turn a prize card face up. and if it's fire energy card, then it does 50 more damage. A lot of times you end up hitting for 10 here if you are not able to hit a meaningful Fireball Circus. Beast Ring, you play it, you get 2 basic energy out of your deck. We should all be familiar, but just in case. Energy Retrieval lets you put 2 basic energies from your discard pile back into your hand, so we can get 6 energies back with Energy Retrieval. And then with Fire Crystal, we can get, we play 4 of them, so we can get an additional 12. So that's a total of 18 energies we can pull out of our discard once they've gotten there. Additionally, we play Fiery Flint, and we play a 4 of. You don't need all 4. You never need all 4. A 4 would get you 16 energies out of your deck, and clearly we don't play 16 basic energies. We play 15. So you never need all the flints, but we want to encounter them frequently. And that's why we play 4 count. It also gives us a card we can feel okay about discarding other than the more common fire discard. So the process often goes: pull energy out with Fiery Flint, attach it with Welder, which we'll talk about in a moment, and then attack and then use the recovery cards to get more out. We play 4 Nest Balls just to get out our basic Pokemon. We don't play any Ultra Balls because we're already discarding as much as we want with Fiery Flint. We don't want extra discard if we can avoid it. We play 4 Poke Gears to try to improve our consistency, letting us get a supporter if we don't have any, or letting us find the supporter we want if we don't have the one that we want that turn. A lot of times you also use greens to pull up the Pokemon, to pull up a trainer that you're going to use for the following turn. Kind of smooth over that process. We play 2 Rescue Stretchers, and you'll see 4 plus 2 equals 6. That's how we have 6 attackers in deck. Most of the time you end up using a Rescue Stretcher to get back a single Pokemon into hand. Occasionally, if you have either an Ultra Space active or a Nest Ball, you'll hit a situation where it's just as good to use it to shuffle and you can still immediately get one of them back. But usually, because we have so few Pokemon, you're wanting to get them back right away. We do play 1 copy of Heat Factory for the extra draw. You discard a fire energy, and then you draw 3 additional cards. Between this and Welder, there are definitely turns where we will be drawing 6 cards. 7 with our initial top deck. That's pretty good. We play Ultra Space to get out Ultra Beasts. We play a Bills, and this is sort of a flex spot. For a while, we were playing Judge here, and Judge never quite felt right, but he was there to just basically disrupt your opponent. We switched to Bills because even though it's not as good as greens, it does give you a way to improve your consistency if that's all you've got or all you've got left if you've used all your greens. Like I say, as soon as we took him out, the next game I played with this list was against a Salazzle Oranguru Unknown Hand deck that beat me because I had no way to disrupt their process. So of course Judge would have been better there, but anyway, greens of course is better than Bills because we don't play any Pokemon with abilities. We can get 2 trainer cards anywhere in the deck, not just the top 7. 1 Guzma feels a little light at times, but I can't, we're usually fine with just attacking the active, and I can't often find something that I would like to routinely have not in my hand over another Guzma. I think the first place we could go for a cut, other than the Bills here, would be to drop 1 Fiery Flint. I think that would be okay. I don't see a lot of room elsewhere, though. I say that, and then we're going to talk in just a second, and you're going to hear that I've removed all kinds of cards for different versions of them. We play 1 Lucamine Prism Star, and this turns games around against a lot of single prize decks that if they happen to be able to pop off before you do, Lucamine can turn that around for you. I was behind in a game against Gyarados deck that was, they had gotten their perfect setup and they were streaming attackers every turn and it was going great for them. Then I was like, oh, Lucamine, now I'm winning the prize race. And they just conceded on the spot. Like as soon as that turn happened and they lost to Gyarados without being able to take a knockout, they were done. They play 4 Welder to accelerate energy attachment. You attach 2 fire energy from hand, and as we've already seen, there's lots of ways to get fire energy in hand, and then you draw 3 more cards. We play 4 Wishful Batons. So this is a card that makes it into like 30-40% of lists. It should be in 100% of lists. I did not have this in the first list that I was testing, even the refined version of it, and it just makes it so much easier. Until like Field Blower gets played in much higher quantities, Wishful Baton means that to take big knockouts, you only need to get 5 to 6 energy in hand instead of 8 or 9. So both are possible to do, but Wishful Baton makes it so much easier because they take a knockout and they don't wipe your energy off the board. We play a Beast Energy so that we can get 30 extra damage, because why not? And we play 15 Fire Energy. That's 15, not 14. A lot of lists are playing 14. Actually, our other list, I think, plays even less than that. But I really like the 15 count. It feels really good. So I think there's reason for looking at that and for going that route. Now, what are some other changes that I've tried and had some success with? I mentioned the Volcanion earlier. I've also tried dropping the count on greens to like a 2 of, and then finding room, again, not playing Wishful Baton, you can find some room for a 2/2 Salazzle line. So you're using greens early on like you would in any Blacephalon deck. But once you get later in and you don't have to rely on greens as much because you have the raw draw power of Salazzle, who has an ability that's the same thing as Heat Factor, right? You discard fire energy, draw 3 more cards. The consistency boost there seems like a good way to not falter against an opponent who's playing Judge or Marshadow's Let Loose. The thing is, like, as much as people say that Blacephalon loses to these hand disruption cards, I haven't experienced that very often. Like, most of the time, my opponents play Judge or Let Loose, and I end up getting enough of what I need that I can then get there. Between Poke Gear, greens, and Welder, I'm usually able to get what I need out of the following turn. Sometimes I Welder to attach 1 energy and draw those 3 cards, but we play so many ways to get energy into our hand that it's pretty easy to either hit one of these or hit something that'll then get it to us. So that's one of the big things that people say is the downfall of this deck. And with this list, it hasn't been that big an issue for me. So there we go. That's the first list. I think some of the keys are the Rescue Stretchers, the Ultra Space, and the high nest ball count. So we're getting our Pokemon out fairly quickly with 6 outs to be able to get them out. And then we can continue streaming them with the Rescue Stretchers and greens, that combo. Alrighty, so with that, we'll go ahead and look at the list we play that deviates further from the norm. Close this one down, open up this one. And right away, first difference, we play a Ditto. So what does Ditto do? We'll expand this out and then we'll look at Ditto. Ditto lets you copy any attack from any Pokemon that relies on basically fireless or colorless energy. So the biggest thing here is probably what you're thinking. we often will be copying Reshiram and Charizard GX's attacks, because those are big hitting attacks. You can, with a fair amount of frequency, end up with 6 energy on a Ditto to then go in and slap a Reshiram Charizard in the face, one hit KO them, and once you've taken out the first one, most of the time you're going to win the game from there. It's as simple as that. Unless it takes you, 3 knockouts worth of Pokemon, and you just need to plan better if that's what's happening. So, there for that, you can copy Tapu Lele's Energy Drive. You could copy like a Silvally's GX attack if you ever play against Silvally, although I heard some hype about Silvally coming into the set and then he hasn't made any waves yet. I've thought about trying to include like a Rainbow Energy to increase the number of things we can copy here, but I really haven't experimented with it much yet. It feels a little bit clunky because we're not ever going to want to play enough Rainbow Energy to make that reliable unless we get to the point that we do. So we'll see. But right now there's enough Charizard Reshiram being played that just for that deck alone, Ditto is huge and worthwhile. Still got the Blacephalons in here. And you'll see the next change, instead of 0, we play 4 Acrobike. Just lets us speed through the deck more, right? You look at 2 cards, pick one. We end up discarding pieces. And we just have to make intelligent decisions about what we can discard while tearing through the deck. We're now playing 4 energy retrieval instead of 3, so even more ways to get energy back. That lets us get away with only playing 13 energy a little bit easier, because we have, more ways of getting it back into our hand to be useful. We're still playing 4 wishful batons too, so we don't lose it, and that also is how we usually end up powering up Ditto. 1 Field Blower. So Field Blower gets rid of wishful batons in mirror matches. It gets rid of stadiums if we don't have a counter stadium in hand. It gets rid of tools if there are tools that are relevant. I think Field Blower needs to be played more often than it is, because we're starting to see more and more stadiums that could be Field Blowered away, and we're starting to see more and more tools, and it just gets you there. Now, obviously the most common tool, Choice Band, we don't even care about, so that's one argument for not worrying about Field Blower, but I would rather have one and not need it than need one and not have it. And the mirror match aspect with the wishful baton is big. We dropped down to 3 Fiery Flint. We kind of talked about that already. Especially with dropping our energy count, it sort of makes sense to drop there. Still Fire Crystal, still 4 Fire Crystals, still 4 Pokegear and 2 Rescue Stretchers. Those counts all stay the same, as did our stadiums and many of our supporters. We dropped to 1 Nest Ball. This feels a little tight most of the time. You don't get as many Pokemon set up quite as quickly in this variant of the deck. However, with the Acrobikes, you are tearing through things a little bit faster, so you get a little bit of extra chances to draw into those Pokemon. Obviously, again, we still have, like I said, all the supporters used for the same thing. The only difference is we also now have an additional Guzma, letting us choose our target or achieve a switch slightly more often. Other than that, the rest of what we play is similar. It's going to play similarly to the previous list that we already talked about. Again, the big difference being you want, when possible against Reshiram and Charizard, having a Wishful Baton, getting energy onto Ditto will win you the game. With the other list, you still usually beat Reshiram and Charizard. They have to achieve so many things to mess you up enough that you're still probably going to beat them, but the Ditto seals it up a little more, gives you some opportunities if they're playing a Turtonator based engine, or based attacking. There are a lot of builds that I've started to see of Charizard that are also playing a Turtonator to kind of throw single prize attackers into the mix. Ditto can deal with those in some cases more efficiently than Blacephalon can. And with that, I think we've pretty much covered the differences and the main things to think about with both of these decks. I think that where a lot of people are going wrong is trying to include too many techs for situations that aren't very likely to occur. We've got there's a possibility that you could face off against one of the decks that plays the Sceptile to prevent Ultra Beasts from attacking. That could happen, and we're gonna have a tough time. Might be able to get something going with Ditto, probably not. But you know what? We don't care. Until that deck, once those decks are actually being played with some level of frequency, then we can start thinking about how to get around those. For right now, we just want to maximize our consistency in doing our thing. And once we have a meta that leads us down a specific path to tech against, then we can adjust further. So, no need right now. Okay, all of that said, this has been Jeffrey, JGB 146 Blake with Team Level 5, and I am signing off.